workplace, I face multiple challenges in regards to sometimes feeling like the only one.
I think sometimes people are taken aback when I share my identities, especially now working online.
As a black person in the workplace, I think you're seen as less than. So, oh, you can do that, and then if you do like a good job or something, they're like, oh, shock, like why? Because I'm black, or is it because I'm gay?
Overall, it's been about embracing those things that make me and learning how to utilise them in a positive way.
Embodying being a leader was really difficult.
People being like, oh, why are we still talking about diversity and inclusion? And I've got to put my whole self into that to encourage people to see why it's important that we're still having these conversations.
I think it scares people. We come from a world full of racism. So we're coming to a place now where people like myself can stand up, and I ain't scared anymore.
A phrase my therapist uses all the time is about like alignment and things not serving me anymore. So the defense mechanisms or the survival mechanisms that I might have used before when dealing with those situations or accepting some of those things in those situations just didn't sit right with me anymore, and I had to do something about it.
I have been exposed to things like being called love, being asked to make tea, being asked to change my hair, put on a pencil skirt, love, you know, put some lippy on, and being asked to perform femininity in order to placate the male gaze.
But the ones that I always have is, oh, you don't seem like you would be that kind of gay. Oh
my gosh, I'm so excited you're going to start a family. Oh, how are you going to do that?
You know, just certain things that I just think to people like is so ignorant. And to them, it might be something that, oh, I'm curious. Well, go to Google.
It's somewhat acceptable if it's that person, but it's not acceptable if it's me. You know, would you ask that to a heterosexual couple? How are they going to, you know, no, you wouldn't, and it's really none of your business.
So as a South Asian woman, assuming that you've had a hard experience coming out, whilst they might think they're being very aware and conscious of my multiple identities by saying that, by taking that into account, what they're actually doing is reinforcing my difference to the white LGBT community.
There's so many terms and so many things that people can say to you, and like we call it micro because to the person that's saying it is small, right? But to the person that's receiving it, it's not that way.
What I find really difficult is people thinking they can say things in front of me because I'm a certain identity, ignoring other parts of my identity.
I get people, like the lads being like, right, we need to figure out a way to like communicate with you. So we're just gonna, I guess you're one of the guys. And so we'd make really like, you know, misogynistic jokes around me. But I think over time it became very important for me to be able to say, that's not appropriate. If nothing else, if you don't respect other women, you need to respect me, and you cannot talk about people like that in front of me.
I've been in a place where I've suggested certain things, whether it's in a meeting or within a group project, and I'm talked over. I'm dismissed. My ideas are listened to, but then quickly pushed to one side as if they're not important, that I don't contribute enough or that my views aren't equal.
For me, I found the best way to deal with microaggressions has been with interest. I particularly enjoy watching people squirm when they realise that what they've said is completely inappropriate.
If I'm sharing something, great. If that is what our relationship is, then cool. But, you know, like, let's always bring it back to the fact that, like, even if we are very close colleagues or work friends or anything like that, like, we're still in a professional environment. You need to respect me.
The most important thing is to take a wider view of things. It could be that they're having a bad day. It might not specifically be about your sexuality, your gender, or your race, for example. Yes, you know, those remarks aren't always welcome and we need to be wary of them, but we can't keep being angry at other people just because they throw these microaggressions at us. Otherwise, it just affects our mental health too much.
You've got two ways. You've got a side that wants to just argue back with this person and bring yourself down to the level and be like, ah! But then I've got this part to me that says, no, like, allow them to say that because, like, I can have a comeback or I can just answer in a way where I'm so proud of who I am, like, it doesn't affect me that much anymore. Whereas before I'd cry about it or I'd get wound up, and now it's like, carry on, do you know what I mean? I'm happy, I'm good.
Being super proud about my own identities and not being ashamed of them, not apologising for them, in the hopes that many other people will also have the confidence to be that way, and then it becomes part of our everyday society, right? And it's not this, you know, underground identity.
Allies are absolutely instrumental, especially in the workplace, because they have access to certain meetings, certain groups and spaces that queer women wouldn't necessarily have. So it's important for them to recognise those moments and actually open the space, open that door and allow queer women to come through.
To be an ally, you have to shift that power. You have to give that power to someone else sometimes. We see so many predominantly white but gay men represented in that setting, and we need gay men to be allies to us as queer women.
Often when I felt as though I wasn't heard, they would stop the conversation and allow me to be heard, even if it was just to say, oh, could you repeat that, Char? Or even to interrupt the person who had interrupted me and said, I'm sorry, Char was trying to say something.
It doesn't have to be this big grand gesture. Like, yes, it's great to celebrate Pride and to create networks and all these other things.
I think an ally is someone who helps you see your worth and reshape that perspective.
We shouldn't have to prove ourselves as black queer women. I'd say just support, like we're all different, so embrace my differences like I embrace yours.
Taking a moment to actually understand us as individual human beings and like understand our individual journeys and struggles.
Feel, I guess, if there was other ignorant people in the space, just to make me feel good and make me feel respected and valued.
People like that have a massive capacity to change the way that you feel at work, the way that you perform, and ultimately the results you get.
And ideally, in a perfect world, we wouldn't need other people to show us that.
I mean, they don't have to, right? They'll still make money, they'll still do what they're doing, we'll still perform, but the fact that they take that extra step to go, this is something that we should be doing and we need to, so we're going to make that change.
The more these things happen and people be mindful and educate yourself.
In a conversation where there are no other, queer women there, or people of color, or disabled people, or whatever it is, that you're not necessarily speaking for people or over people, but you're just constantly reminding everybody that actually other people do exist and there are other experiences out there.
There's a type of allyship of being a scholar, and it's about always being open to learning and learning about other people, other experiences, other identities, and the challenges that those identities face. And being open to that learning, I think that's allyship to me.